everybody.
Hey,
guys. Welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I don't know what just went on there, but we've had a rough start.
It's been a day. It's been a real day. And it feels like a week has happened in this day for so many reasons. Wow.
It really does.
I forgot to start the countdown. That's what happened. So we just sat here for about 5 seconds before I realized I hadn't. And then halfway through that, I realized that I hadn't silenced my phone. So, you know, if you saw me wrestling my phone there for a moment, that would be why.
I was actually doing the exact same thing. I just didn't manage to. Anyway, we're really sorry. Welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver. I am here with my sister and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey, guys. Happy Wednesday. Happy Weird Wednesday.
Happy Weird Wednesday. It has been a grueling day.
Did we actually name this day accidentally or what?
Yeah. Weird Wednesday. Anyway, yes, it has been a grueling day, and apparently we had a moment of comic relief. So there you go. So of course, this is our Wednesday night update show. We do have two big court updates for you guys, but
sure do.
Before that, we felt like it would be probably called for to do something for the violence of this day, and then of course we started it very irreverently, so I apologize for that. That's why we're not allowed to go to church anymore, but
yeah, that's one of the reasons. Okay. Sure.
But we for those of us in the US, it's been a very hard day and a lot of really intense feelings. There's been, of course, violence at our Capitol, and a lot of people are hurting tonight and feeling the stress and the strain. I have talked to so many of my empathic clients today that are just in absolute physical pain. Some of them that didn't even know why, don't watch the news, didn't know what was going down today, but are still hurting. For those of you that are not in the US, I am sorry. I'm sure that you are damn tired of hearing about our politics. So are we. This isn't about politics. This is just about the pain that our country is suffering tonight. And so we're just going to ask if you guys will all join us in a moment of silence. Just send love from your hearts so that we can project peace, that we can project kindness, that we can project civility, and that we can project protection around all those who need it tonight and moving forward. So let's go ahead and take a minute and do that now. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cranky said she is stomach sick. Yeah. It has been a day, hasn't it?
It has. Well, it has been a day in the true crime world too.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We get to what we have to tell you. Whew.
Yeah. Mara's texting me all afternoon from school. Mom, do you see what's happening? Mom, did you hear this? Mom, do you know? I'm like, oh, I know. I know it's a much smaller scale to a lot of people, but to a lot of people today, it feels like the same kind of trauma that they felt when 9/11 happened, and people were glued to their TVs and they couldn't stop watching it. And it's a similar kind of vibe, though this is not nearly as grave, I hope, and won't last as long, but
yeah, but it certainly has that kind of energy. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Yeah. Well, in the true crime world, there's been a couple of big things that go on this week. And the first is that on Monday, the Masts were in court. This is, of course, the case that we've been sharing with you that happened on the 20th of December when a 4-year-old child was beat to death in Missouri by her parents and their neighbors. So Mary and James Mast, the parents, Courtney Aumann, and Ethan Mast, the neighbors. So all four have now been arrested and charged with various crimes in her death. And so we have a little update. They were all going to court on Monday on bond hearing updates or bond hearings. And not a lot happened. Ethan ended up not coming to court because he doesn't have an attorney yet, which I thought was really weird, but that's what's happening. This was not streamed, by the way. It happened in person, so we didn't get to watch it. We only got to read about it.
Yeah, this case is going to be a little more challenging because I don't think we're going to have the luxury. Could we call it a luxury after what we watched today?
No.
Of watching all of the Daybell
No.
Vallow hearings.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So James Mast and Courtney Almond were both given bond hearing continuances until January 19th. Mary Mast has a continuance until February 2nd. They all have different attorneys. That's what happened. One of the things that really bothered people is that Mary, and you can see here in the picture that we posted, she's the one on the far right, Mary laughed and smiled throughout the hearing and giggled and laughed all the way out the door talking to her attorney. It was very Lori Vallow-esque, as if
she is like standing right next to Courtney and doesn't seem bothered by that at all.
Yeah.
They're standing practically touching shoulders and she doesn't seem to care.
The other weird thing is that he's the only person in the entire room that doesn't have a mask on.
Yeah.
But I don't know why Mary doesn't, but she doesn't. And she should have, because it would at least have turned off, hidden that smirking mug, because that was pretty hard to see.
It was. And you're right. So Lori Vallow.
Yeah. Yeah. So not a huge update there, but, they did go to court. So we're updating on that and we'll keep an eye on it. So far they will all be held until bond. There was a request put in by the attorneys of Mary Mast and James Mast to allow them to be released from jail long enough to attend their daughter's funeral, which if you think that seems shocking and rich as hell, it is. They're both charged in connection to her murder and tried to get out of jail to go to her funeral. Her obituary makes no mention of anything wrong. Basically, it says that she is the daughter of loving parents. The whole thing.
Whoever wrote that obituary needs slapped.
So gross.
It reminds me of some Mormon obituaries I've read of some people that did not deserve the kind send-off they got.
Elizabeth, yes. Mary is the mother. Yeah, she is. So there's lots more to come in this case, obviously, and we'll keep you posted. But that's what happened as of now. Now, the big kahuna today. Today was the day one, dear God, of the...
Why does there have to be more than one day? Please tell us why.
Please. This was the day one of the move to remove Rob Wood as the prosecutor in the Daybell Vallow proceedings. So you guys might remember, we've talked about it before, but back in October, Mr. Wood had a face-to-face meeting with Summer Shiflett and then Zulema, they're calling her everything. We're going to say Zulema, but Zulema Pastenes and their attorneys, who happen to be the same person, a slimy little worm named Garrett Smith. And
and we got to learn a lot about him today, didn't we?
Oh my God. So he had a conversation, an 18-minute conversation with Summer that was recorded by Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith did not tell anyone he was recording it. Now, technically in Arizona, it is a one consent state or one party state. So he can do that. It's still it smacks a lot that you would record a prosecuting attorney. It just feels very schemy, but whatever. That's what he did. Decided later that he was concerned about the conversation, though within the confines of the conversation, he conversed and was friendly and agreed with certain things. Never objected to a word that was said, but later decided to grow some kind of conscience and sent, I used air quotes for those of you that are listening.
Oh yeah, don't forget, not everyone can see that.
Yes, and sent the recording of that conversation to both of the defendant's attorneys without the knowledge of the prosecutor. I mean, if this all is starting to feel a little slimy to you, it should. So these two listened to it, And they decide that there is gross misconduct on the part of the prosecutor and that he must be removed from the case immediately.
Yes.
They also release the transcript to the media.
Yes.
We listened to the whole thing today.
I want to set this up in one way first. Something that I feel like came out really important in this is this was not a everybody sit down at the table, have a conversation. They were standing in what they called an ante room, waiting for these folks, for Summer and Zulema, to be interrogated by the police. And so they're just standing sort of in a little group having this conversation. This is not an official anything, but of course, Mr. Smith, which when he had to spell his name for the court, I laughed my ass off. Like, why do you have to spell Smith in the US, really? Anyway, it just, think about it. They're just standing in this little cluster waiting. And this is the conversation that's had. And this is what they're freaking out about. So anyway, proceed. This part in my head, I'm like, so ridiculous.
So the first thing they do is they call Mr. Smith as a witness. Mr. Smith has a pretty terrible memory or a bit of a lying problem. But initially when they ask him, did you tell the prosecutor that you were recording? He says, I can't remember. I don't really know. I might have. I don't know. Did I? I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
He said it and asked himself like 5 times.
I just don't know. I don't know. Did I say that? I might have said that. I could have. I didn't have to, but maybe I did. No, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was just
the prosecutor and the prosecutor's deputy that was with him and witnessed this entire conversation both say, no, he didn't say anything of the kind. Then he says, I think I started recording before we ever entered the room because I was going to record the whole conversation that she was having with the police, because that's where she was there for, was to have an interview with the police that Mr. Wood was not a part of. So at any rate, he says, no, I started recording before we came in. That's right. Later in the conversation, suddenly, towards the end of his interview, his memory just snapped back. I just don't know if the Alzheimer's cleared for just a minute or if his gummy wore off or what. But suddenly, he knew what was up. And he remembered that Wood was doing something sketchy, and he realized his vibes told him that he needed to start recording. He knew.
Yeah.
And his vibes that Wood did that was so sketchy, he had someone with him. He had a deputy with him who Mr. Smith felt like was probably a witness, which probably meant this was going to become a confrontational conversation, which meant he better record it. Yeah. That's basically where it started from. And if you can imagine what a show this sounds like, it only went downhill from here. Smith basically had no idea. I mean, they asked him so many questions that he couldn't remember the answer to, that he skipped all over the place with, and basically even Smith acted like he's not really sure why he's there.
He really did. He seemed very unprepared. He did not have a transcript of the call in front of him. He hadn't listened to it recently and couldn't really remember everything that was said.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell? How are you you are an attorney and you are this unprepared?
And you're the fool who thought this was so egregious that you sent it off to the defense attorneys, and now you have no idea why you're in this chair.
Yeah.
He didn't help their case much, I'll tell you that.
He really didn't.
It was grueling, however, just grueling. Then, should we move on to the next witness?
Let's do, because
basically about that, or?
He was an ass, and he changed his story over and over again, and whatever. So then they played the call or the conversation.
They played the conversation, and everybody, I'm sure, that was listening went, when do we get to the bad part? They had said that basically what they're accusing Wood of doing is unduly pressuring a witness, trying to coach a witness and intimidating a witness with the death penalty.
And
the most bonkers part for me, because
that was bullshit.
I mean, I can't say most bonkers because why? But anyway,
so much bonkers.
What he said was, she asked him if the death penalty was going to be discussed, and he said, yeah. He said it could be. He said, I don't really want to go that route. I'll be honest with you, I don't. But that is something that we'll come to down the road. I don't know. I can't tell you that for sure, but it's a possibility. He said, but I really don't want to go that route. That's what he told her.
Yeah.
And
how is that threatening her with the death penalty? First of all, it's not her. She's not charged with anything.
He was actually really sweet to her.
He was very nice.
He was pretty sweet about Lori, to be honest. He called Chad a big wimp and said that when the press and the police found them in Hawaii, that Lori was cool as a cucumber and Chad looked like he was going to pee his pants. And that's part of the reason they'd like to see him disbarred.
He also said, Chad is highly manipulative. I can't say he's highly intelligent, but he's highly manipulative. So he called him dumb, called him a wimp, and said he looked like he was going to pee his pants. And so, of course, the defense attorneys are just clutching their pearls over this horrible offense,
Yes, so very much. And then, of course, the cream, to the cake here. He said that Means is in over his head. And once murder charges are brought, Lori will have to get a more qualified attorney.
Yeah, he did. He said he was incompetent. And honestly, the way that I took it was he was telling Summer, this is how you can help your sister.
Yeah.
Her attorney is shit. And if she doesn't turn on her husband, she might get the death penalty. I took it a very different way than these defense attorneys did. Because this has been said to Lori Vallow before. It was said by the judge when that ungodly bail reduction hearing happened way back last spring. The judge looked her right in the eye and said, it is your right to have competent representation. You might want to think about that.
Yes. She also said to Mr. Means, you need to get some guidance from someone who has experience in felony cases.
Yeah.
This is the first, as we know, and this is what Mr. Wood said, as we understand, this is his first criminal felony case.
Yeah. And it's this freaking case. This huge, massive, going to take years to resolve case.
Yeah. Means is just determined to see this case through no matter what. It is so extremely selfish and unprofessional on his part because he's not in any way qualified to do this.
No,
he seems to be learning a few things from Mr. Pryor.
Well, it kind of just lets Pryor run the show. Pryor, this hearing was for both of them today, but Pryor did 90% of the talking.
Now, usually when Pryor objected to something, Means would be like, "Oh yeah, Your Honor, me too,
me too." Yeah,
like a little puppy dog running along beside him.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was basically it. I mean, it was really hard to listen to 18 minutes of that and understand the other thing that happened in it. And this is one of the things they're hammering on the very hardest. They got into a conversation about how kind of the religious aspect of this. And Wood said something about, I know I'm using kind of LDS terms right now. I also am LDS. He said that to Summer, who is Mormon, LDS Mormon. And she said, because Summer already knew that.
Well,
you guys are acting like this is some kind of they're trying to use this as this is the way he was manipulating and coercing the witness is by telling her that he too is LDS, because that makes her feel like she has to, I don't know what.
He's the prosecutor in Madison County, Idaho. Of course, he's freaking Mormon.
He's actually a bishop, but
yeah. And she's talking to her sister. Of course, she knows this. I mean, come on,
she knows. That's the thing. As I keep listening to this, I just wanted to scream at everyone. Summer already knew he's Mormon. This is a non-issue.
Yeah.
Anyway, so stupid. So those are the things that they're mad about, basically. They're mad that he talked to her about some details of the case very lightly. I mean, he didn't give her much, but he did tell her that the death penalty can be a consideration. And he told her, and this is something we haven't heard before, that they will be pursuing murder charges. Conspiracy to commit murder.
Conspiracy, that they fully intend to pursue conspiracy to commit. This is the exact thing that we have been saying all along. They want to get them on these first conspiracy charges because then they'll turn around and charge them with conspiracy to commit murder after they've already been convicted of conspiracy to destroy evidence and conceal evidence. But did you catch the other thing they said that we have not heard before?
Oh,
A
yeah.
couple of days
What
before
is
they served a
that?
search warrant on Chad and found the bodies of the children, Lori, because of course they're listening to all these jail phone calls,
Mhm.
Lori was trying to convince Chad that they should tell the police where the kids are.
Yep.
That we had never heard before. We had guessed it. If you go back and look at our videos right when that happened, we said somebody is talking, someone's ready to talk,
Yep.
and we were right. It was Lori.
Yep.
Found that really interesting.
Yep. There was one other piece that we didn't know about. Zulema.
Yes.
Zulema's testimony is on a plea deal.
Yes, it is.
And the plea deal itself is the kind of a plea deal one would take to be able to testify without incriminating and being charged yourself.
Right, but only so they cannot charge her with anything for what she says.
Mm-hmm.
But they can charge her. It's called use immunity.
Yep.
So if she tells them a bunch of stuff that implicates her, they can't charge her for that. But if they prove it through other testimony and evidence, they can still charge her.
Yeah.
Really interesting. We didn't know that.
Now, we have said all along that we thought that Zulema had a lot more involvement than, we have known about. She has kept a very low profile. She lawyered up the minute Alex died.
Yes.
And we've been saying all along, we thought that there was something up with her that we don't know about yet. Well, there definitely is, because she's got a deal there.
Well, the other thing they're all mad about in this conversation is when Woods, they say that he revealed evidence to her that isn't in the public view, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
They talked about, she asked, is there any progress on Tylee?
Yes.
Because Tylee's body was cut up and burned. We know it was a horrible, horrible thing. And they haven't really been able to come through with a lot of information yet about her, and her autopsy isn't complete. And he said, because of the destruction to her body, this has been harder and it's taking more time, right? Well, they hammered on that as though that was information that isn't in the public view. And that's not true. That has been known information since shortly after those bodies were found. But, they can just say whatever they want, apparently, because that's just a huge lie.
Yeah.
That he shared information that they didn't know, because he didn't.
That was kind of the crux of everything, though. Everything they said was basically a bunch of frequently that he was coercing the witness, he was intimidating, he was coaching, but they never said what he was coaching her to do. There was never any indication that there was anything that he told her to do, asked her to do. He said anything to her really about what she was going to say to the police or nothing.
The only thing he did is he implied that her sister would be better off and avoid the death penalty if she were to flip on Chad.
Yes.
He didn't say it like that, but he implied it. And I think that's what they're talking about. And this is, of course, brought forward first and foremost by Chad's attorney.
Yeah.
This is such a mess because this case is joined.
Yeah.
But then you have these two opposing forces. Anyway, it's crazy. But yeah, right. He never said, what you have to say or what you have to do or whatever. It was actually a very amicable conversation. There was no nastiness at all from anyone.
Summer was very nice. He was really sweet and kind to her. It was, there was no bit of nastiness, and there certainly wasn't any air of him trying to intimidate her at all. She also acted like she was completely fine,
She did. She didn't act upset. She didn't sound upset.
Yeah. Now, is he looking back wishing he hadn't said a few things in that conversation? I'm sure he is. And will he learn something from this moving forward? I'm sure he will.
He shouldn't have talked about his religion. He shouldn't have revealed, their plan going forward as far as charging them with conspiracy. Those are two things that I think, you shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. But was it kick you off this case, disbar you wrong? No, it freaking wasn't. And we know it wasn't because we listened to two very boring expert witnesses.
Oh my God. So the first expert witness was a man by the name of James Davidson, who is a forensic psychologist who has, experience and accreditations as long as your freaking
Oh,
arm.
it took like 15 minutes to introduce him. It was so
Well,
ridiculous.
he was clearly reading his own bio off
Yeah.
of a computer screen. He was hunkered down in, obviously reading it. Well,
Mhm.
you're not supposed to do that. When
No.
you are on the stand, you're actually not supposed to be reading literature. You're supposed to just be speaking.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
finally, the
neuro
judge asked him, "Are you reading something off of your screen or along those lines?" And he said no, which was, if you guys go back and watch it, you'll be like, not only from his cadence, but from the way he's looking at his screen. He was obviously reading
unfollowing, staring at his screen,
something.
like, come on.
So we listened to an unbelievable amount of tedious, dry BS from him. First, he went through a huge long list of different biases and a huge long list of interviewing techniques. And it was so inapplicable and ridiculous. But
Well, yeah, a whole bunch of
anyway,
it was stuff that didn't apply to this case at all, and I
at
thought,
all.
this is just trying to influence here. This is just,
Mhm.
or just trying to kill the judge with boredom. I'm not sure.
Or just make himself sound really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very dry. And, there were very occasionally the prosecutor's office would object to something, but it was pretty rare. They were asking him, though, towards the end, they were absolutely tap dancing, trying to make him admit something, that this was so terrible, so bad. And he was claiming, yes, I think that she was a vulnerable adult. The funny thing is, though, they asked Smith if he felt like Summer Shiflett was a vulnerable witness, and he said no.
Yeah.
And he's her attorney that's been
Yeah.
working with her for 6 months now, and he said, no, she's not a vulnerable
Well,
adult.
and vulnerable adult is not just some
Phrase. Yeah.
phrase. Vulnerable adult is a legal term that
Mhm.
applies to people with disabilities or mental illness or physical illness that makes them particularly vulnerable. And she is not identified as a vulnerable adult legally, not in any way.
No.
It's ridiculous.
But in the expert's opinion, she is a vulnerable adult, and it's possible that Wood created bias for her by revealing his religion and trying to basically get her on his team.
Mhm.
The challenge you have with that, for one, is that her sister is one of the defendants. However, she is also the family of the victims. And
Right.
prosecutors talk to the victims' families all the time and reveal facts and talk to them about things. And
Well,
so, from that perspective, you go, well, is that really any different than how he has probably talked to the Woodcocks?
right. Right. Well, and let's just get real. Summer Shiflett doesn't know shit about this.
No.
She didn't even know these kids were missing until Lori was arrested.
Mhm.
And they'd been dead for 6 months by
Mhm.
that time. It's the whole thing. This is such a game. It's not like
Mhm.
she's a really important witness in this case. She's not. If
No.
anything, she'd be a character witness for Lori, maybe.
Mhm.
Like, she doesn't know anything. The kids
No.
were long dead by the time she even knew that they were missing. There clearly was no contact being had, or very
No.
little contact being had. All of this is a game. This is not like this is, a witness that they really need on either side of this case. She isn't at
Yeah.
all. If she didn't testify on either side, it wouldn't affect this trial in the least.
Yep. Nope. Nope. Not at all. And that was a big, that's what's so silly. It's not like she's meaningful at all. She just simply
She
not.
no.
So they finally get to be done with this doctor. And in the meantime, there's been some breaks and the judge going into the back room to drink Jaeger, I think.
Probably. Well, and just a bunch of really stupid breaks for things like prior and means were completely unprepared for this hearing. Oh, they gave the transcript of the recording that they gave the doctor was not an official transcript and wasn't even actually the same one as
Mhm.
the official transcript. And so there was a whole thing about that this whole evaluation that he did, the transcript he was using wasn't even the right one.
Yeah.
He did have the recording, but what he was referring to, like as a transcript in front of him, was the wrong one.
Yep.
Wood's attorney, Evans, did hammer that down.
Mhm.
So then we had to go through this whole stupid thing where they had to take him off Zoom so that he could share his email address with someone so they could send him the right one. Oh, it was stupid, super dumb. Zoom hearings are awful.
Well, yeah, and they were so unprepared. It was crazy. They also had not briefed this guy. He had no idea. He couldn't remember anything he'd written. He'd written a 24-page report about all of this bias and all of this stuff, and he couldn't remember anything.
He'd have to read it and then respond. It's like, oh yeah.
Which again, you're really not supposed to do, but they had a witness that it really made me start wondering if he actually wrote that report at all, because he had no idea. They'd ask him about specific things. When this happened in the transcript, what was your conclusion? I don't really, did I? It was ridiculous.
It was.
I don't think we learned very much from him, frankly. I did.
No, it was just a lot of bluster and a lot of total conjecture, because he's not interviewed Summer and he's not interviewed Wood. And so all of this is based off the recording alone. He didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So then, by the grace of God, we're finally done with him. And they pull their next witness. They have another witness. Now, I got to say one thing right now. They had two witnesses. This is the same Mark Means who was crying on Twitter a while ago because he has no money or resources for this case.
Right.
And now he has hired two different expert witnesses to testify on an absolute losing battle of getting the prosecutor thrown off of the case. So where the hell is that money coming from? Seriously.
Well, Pryor is paying the first doctor because they asked him, and he's charging. They asked him, and he said he's paying him $270 an hour just to testify. I don't know what the report must have cost, because it was 24 pages long. It cost a chunk,
and it was computer generated. So I joke, but seriously, that dude acted like he had no idea what was written there.
He did. He acted like this was the first time he'd ever heard of any of this.
So the second witness is a University of Idaho law professor by the name of Samuel Newton. So kind of some interesting stuff about Newton. Newton studied criminal law at BYU. And so he has a doctorate, and they had insisted on calling him doctor and insisting on his doctorate. His doctorate is in Mormon history.
Yeah.
He's a Mormon historian. He has a book, and he has another one with the publisher, and he's hoping that gets published soon. Just FYI.
His intro was like 15 minutes long too, and it was all this crap that's nothing to do. He's a law professor, basically.
So then the prosecutor's office is like, we're going to object to this witness as a professional because for various reasons, I can't remember exactly, but they had
basically that he's not an expert witness. He's
right. This is the first time he's ever served as an expert witness. So I think they got him on sale.
Pretty sure they did. Pretty sure.
And they probably still overpaid because, frankly, he hurt their case a whole lot more than he helped it.
He did.
Most of his testimony was him covering his own ass, and I think probably weeping in a corner, wishing he had never agreed to this foolishness, because when they started questioning him, he just continually was like, well, that's not really what I said. Oh, I wouldn't go that far. Well, I don't think. He wouldn't cop to anything. Basically, he was like, I mean, yeah, when it comes down to ethics, it wasn't the most ethical conversation. And I would tell my students not to have a conversation like that. And that's basically the best he could give them.
Well, he would not come to any conclusion.
No.
I have no idea why they had him.
Yeah.
I have no clue, because he just kept saying, I don't think I could say that. I don't think I could come to that conclusion. I mean, he implied a bunch of bullshit, but when it came right down to it, he could not say, yes, this was blah, blah, blah. He wouldn't.
No, he wouldn't. I felt like it seemed to me like it had started to occur to him that this was a mistake.
Well, the judge asked him right at the end, a very interesting question. And I found that because he had talked about precedent, and everything that he talked about was about a prosecutor speaking to a witness during a trial.
Yeah.
Well, this didn't happen during a trial. This happened in an anteroom, standing up. waiting for this is not the same thing at all. And that's what the prosecutor's office said over and over again was none of this actually applies. And so the judge finally said, I have one question for you, because he's worked on a lot of cases and he's seen a lot of prosecutors get in trouble and blah, blah, blah. He said a lot of that. And the judge said, have you ever seen a prosecutor get removed from a case prior to the trial for something like this?
Yeah.
And you know what his answer was? No.
No.
And I think that cut all of this other BS away. That's all this was. No, there's no precedent for this because he didn't do anything illegal. They truly tried to say at one point that Wood had actually committed a crime.
Oh yeah, they did. They tried to claim that this was a crime.
Certainly not proven that. And they certainly haven't proved that that he needs to be removed either.
No.
It might be, hey, don't talk about your religion to clients, okay? Or to witnesses. Boom, you're done.
Yeah. Even so are your religion and you felt comfortable sharing that. The reason he shared that, it was very obvious in the conversation. They were talking about things that sounded doctrine-y. And I think he was just trying to be like, I know what you're talking about,
I
and
get
at
it.
the time when he said, I know that sounds like, LDS jargon or something like that.
LDS speak.
He says, oh yeah. Like, he was totally participating in this conversation. But anyway, he is a slimy weasel. That's all you got to know.
Yeah.
He said on record, he spell his last name SMITH, but I think actually it's spelled WEASEL. That's probably how I had to spell it.
I think so. Yeah. Her attorney. I mean, seriously, if you were sitting there with your client and they're talking to this prosecutor and you don't like what's being said, you would say, wait a minute. We're not talking about that. I'm ending this conversation. I'm recommending to my client you don't answer that question, or we're not going to talk about this subject. He said nothing.
No.
He agreed. He chuckled a few times. You can kind of hear him. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's all such bullshit.
So after 7 grueling hours of this belligerent turd rodeo.
That is a great, yeah. That is a great way to characterize the whole thing.
All of that, they did not get through this in one day. The judge was freaking dumbfounded. I know he was. And he said, we're going to have to come back for another day. You can almost hear him,
Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah, he was definitely slipping a gummy later. But anyway, but for him, so then they start trying to get their calendars together, because these are all attorneys that you would assume are busy. Some more than others, obviously. But they finally came together on Friday afternoon at 1:00. And basically, it's just for closing arguments, dear God. And then for the judge to rule. It is my personal opinion that this is all a bunch of technicalities. The court had to allow this because, it was a serious allegation. They're not going to remove Wood from the case. The one concession I thought maybe he would make is that he might say, Mr. Wood, you're going to stay on the case. I am going to admonish you to be a little more careful in your conversations moving forward. And Mr. Wood will say, yes, Judge. Absolutely, Judge. Thank you, Judge. And then he's going to say, if the time comes that the prosecution decides that they need to call Summer Shiflett as a witness, I am going to ask that a member of your staff interview her.
Yeah, his deputy. Boom.
Yeah.
Solved. Well, because Pryor said, yes, Judge, we do still need to give our closing arguments. And I have no idea how long that might take. Oh, God, this is going to go for 4 hours.
You could just see the judge almost slide out of his
right
chair.
Now, it's going to be 1 to 5 on Friday. They are going to go the whole freaking time.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. I got to charge up my Bluetooth earphones.
So then the prosecution says, could we just do briefs instead? We would happily do a brief. Basically, they would each write closing argument letters to the judge. He'd get it all figured out. He'd rule.
Right.
And because they said, we only received their testimonies yesterday. So we really have not had any time to prepare. So very professional of them, but whatever. And so the judge, so they said we could have more time to prepare that way. We would love that. And then we don't have to meet again. But the judge said no. He said, nope, we need to get this wrapped up.
Well, after means and Pryor cried for 5 minutes. I mean, they both put up
Oh,
a
yeah.
big stink over that. Because I think
Oh,
they
yeah.
really love speaking over the live stream so the whole world can listen to what jackasses they are.
Mhm.
But yeah, that seemed really ridiculous to me that they couldn't do those in briefs. But
Mhm. Well, we've seen, well, actually both of their briefs, but particularly Means's. I'm going to tell you something, Means. I hope he hears this. He won't, but I want him to hear this.
Mhm.
Grammarly is $29.99 a month.
Dude, you can afford it, okay?
Mhm.
It's worth
You
it.
can even get the free version if that's too much, but $29.99 a month, and she will whip you into shape.
Yeah. Good
Because,
job.
wow, he has a bad habit of typos and
Mhm.
misspellings and things in his briefs. You know, technology is a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So
Abby says, I wonder if Pryor's just going to spew useless information in hopes to get some sort of point across. I'm pretty sure that's what happens every single time he opens his mouth. He is the worst for testifying. He is constantly in trouble. Has been in every hearing we've seen him in for testifying, throwing in some testimony of his own in his questions.
he says something like, Doctor, wouldn't you agree that what Mr. Woods was egregious and he should be thrown in prison for the rest of his life? You know?
Yeah.
And then the doctor sits there for a second. Yeah.
And then then Wood's attorney would be like, he's testifying, Your Honor.
I object. He's testifying. And the judge goes, yeah, yes, you are. Your Honor, I am not testifying. I am simply asking a question. Okay, can you rephrase the question? And sometimes he rephrases it and he gets called on it again because he didn't rephrase it enough. Yeah. Yeah.
And JR, I promise I'll wear my unicorn headset tomorrow night for our live stream.
Yes, for the Psychic Thursday show, for sure. A couple of things. Fran, I thought that was a very good point. She said, if Mark was so offended and filed this motion, how come John acted like it was his case? Well, they both filed. Pryor, or Means filed it first, but then Pryor filed his own objections as well. So they both actually filed on it. But I think it's a good question. You know, if Means thought this was such a big deal, how come he hardly did any of the work today? I mean, we all know why, but you know.
We do all know why. He's definitely riding on Pryor's coattails because Pryor is he's an ass, but he is a way better defense attorney than Means is.
Way better. And then I just wanted to point out to someone else, was it Shell? I can't remember, said that they just really feel sorry for Colby because he lost his whole family in this. And I agree with you. My heart goes out to Colby. I know some people have in the podcasting world have been really hard on Colby and acted like they thought he was trying to benefit from this in some way. And I hope he has, to be quite honest, because this has been hell for him.
He's not exactly benefited from Lori being his mother in any other way.
Right. He did not win the mama lottery in any way whatsoever. And yes, lost 2 siblings and his mother because she is completely gone. So it is super sad.
And his stepdad. Yeah. Awful.
Yeah. Well, that's what we have for updates, except for that. We do have a little bit of, a bit of nice news. Our new merch store is up and running. We put it on Facebook this afternoon, and you guys actually ran over there. So we've been so excited. It's fun. So we put a link in the chat room for it. But if you're going to search for it, it's truecrimefans.threadless.com.
Or if that's hard to remember, go to our website, truecrimeparanormalpodcast.com, and just click on the graphic that says merch, and it'll take you there.
Mm-hmm. Who is Colby's father? Colby's father is none of the people that are involved in this.
Yep.
Colby's father...
he went by Joe Ryan's last name, but Joe Ryan was not his father.
Yep. Lori had Colby really young, and it sounds like they weren't together for very long. And I don't know that his dad's a part of his life or he isn't. I'm not actually sure about that.
I'm not either.
But he's not one of the husbands that, has been allegedly murdered or has been a part of this.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. All righty. Well, we're going to be back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Mountain for our very first psychic show of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And of
And it's
course,
marching orders.
it is marching orders. Yeah. So that's
January.
one of our favorite shows of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely come and play with us. Get a reading. Well, get a collective reading. We'll read for all of the signs for the month.
Yeah.
That's always a lot of fun. And of course, if you are interested in joining our community and taking new age or metaphysical classes from us, make sure that you join our membership option. That is Spirit School with the Psychic Sisters. And when you do that, you will get 1 guided meditation and 2 classes a month with us. So
And that's on our YouTube channel.
Yes, that's right here. Or yeah, on our, I always forget. Yes, we're on a podcast and YouTube. That's on YouTube. So you got to come find us, True Crime Paranormal on YouTube. So,
yeah.
All righty, you guys. Thanks so much for being here with us tonight. We appreciate you so much. Have a good night. Let's all cross our fingers for an easier day tomorrow. This has been True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Take care.
Bye, guys.